minutes.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mundell. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I'm grateful to the member for Midlothian for bringing this debate to Westminster Hall and to colleagues across the House for their comments and remarks during their speeches. I would say that I've been very struck during the debate by the difference in tone between the contributions that have been made. There's been a lot of denunciation, but there's also been a rather fair-minded strand of discussion which has acknowledged the extraordinary circumstances in which we as a nation have been placed, and which has acknowledged the, I think, scale and, dare I say, effectiveness of the government's interventions. I particularly thank across the parties the member for Somerton and Frome, the member for Caithness, Sutherland and Easter Ross, and the member for Stirling for their fair-minded engagement with this issue. If I may, what I will do is just talk a little bit about where we are, and then, of course, come on to the questions that have been raised by colleagues in their speeches. I think it's understood, and let me be perfectly clear, and it's important, as the member for Midlothian and others have mentioned, for us to be tonally clear that the government absolutely understands the depth and difficulty of the situation in which people have been faced throughout this pandemic. And that is why we have tried, to support as many people and businesses as we possibly can, and to do so as quickly and as effectively as possible. Now, the member for Midlothian was highly dismissive of this, but actually, colleagues, I'm pleased to say, in this chamber were not, and they recognised that the government had provided a very wide-ranging package of national financial assistance worth over £350 billion, and that international commentators have actually recognised this, and I think of the IMF, which described it as one of the best examples of coordinated action globally. Now, those packages, those bits of concentrated support, but also wide-ranging support, include, of course, the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme, the CJRS, which has supported 11.5 million jobs since its inception, and the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme, or SAYS, which has so far provided grants to almost 3 million people. Now, of course, I'm not going to give away, I'm sorry, there have been no time whatever, and I want to respond to all of the comments that have been made in this debate. Of course, it's understood that these schemes, of course, continue to be amongst the most generous of their kind in the world, and it's recognised, I think it's recognised by all fair-minded people, that as restrictions start to ease, economic activity and demand will pick up, and that the government needs to tailor its support accordingly. And that's why, and I refer to the Honourable Lady for Edmonton, that's why it has announced the fifth and final SAYS grant will have the value of the grant determined by a turnover test, and that is because of the need to target support towards those most affected by the pandemic. I don't think that's a principle that people should wish to contest, given the overall financial impact of this crisis on taxpayers. And that is for that reason, in relation to the CJRS, of course, that we've also introduced an employer contribution. But let me just focus for a moment on the effects of this set of interventions. At the start of the crisis, well, the Bank of England, first of all, in its May forecast, now projects the economy to return to its pre-crisis level by the end of the year, significantly earlier than previous forecasts. At the start of the crisis, forecasts suggest that unemployment would reach 12% or more. The numbers are, in fact, now close to half that, which could mean almost 2 million fewer people losing their jobs than originally been feared. We hope it must be so. Together, the 5 SAYS grants combined will have provided individual claimants with support of up to £36,570. And of course, that makes clear the scale of the support. Of course, I recognise that some people have not been eligible or have not been able to receive support from those schemes, and that is why so many other aspects of the interventions, including the support for local authorities, have been put in place. If I may, let me just pick up some of the points that have been made by colleagues. So it was suggested by the member for Midlothian that the government was somehow dismissing solutions that had been put in front of it by independent, reputable groups, as he put it, for spurious reasons. Nothing could be further from the truth. So the member for Caithness, Sutherland and Easter Ross recognised in another context, we have lent into all of those debates. We have very carefully scrutinised both the TIGs and the DIS proposals that were put forward. I have met with groups in different meetings that include the Federation of Small Business, the Forgotten Limited, ACCA, the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, the Gaps in Support Group, the Refused Furlough Support Group, Maternity Petition, Forgotten PAYE, and a whole host of other organisations. And we will continue to entertain. We very much welcome thoughtful and interventions that are designed to help us recognising the constraints under which we operate. The trouble, as I think colleagues understand, is that we are caught by the need to put in place schemes that respect fraud and error concerns. And of course, let me remind colleagues, including the member for Glenrothes, who raised this, that the very people who would denounce the government for failing to extend support will themselves be the very people who then denounce the government if it turns out that the fraud and error that is incurred by overly expansive support were to lead to a loss of revenue to the taxpayer. You can't have it both ways. We are trying to bend over backwards to support these groups, and we are, I think, in many respects, doing so. Let me just pick up a few other words. So the Honourable Gentleman from Glenrothes talked about straw manning. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. And there's no suggestion on my part that any limited company directors are fat cats. Absolutely not. We recognise that in many cases these are extremely effective individuals. What we're trying to do is to find an effective way that supports all of the constraints that I've described and meets them of supporting a very wide range of people who've been affected. He talks about debt management. Let me remind him that we've put in place this pioneering VAT deferral new payment scheme, and that HMRC have made clear that they are going extremely carefully to try to manage the impact of different tax schemes and tax reliefs and the withdrawal of those reliefs on different groups. He talks about whether government will show appreciation for charities that support people through the crisis. Of course we will. We have expanded support for voluntary and charitable groups in relation to HMRC, and we very warmly support and recognise, and I work very closely, as I've said in another context, with the low-income tax reform group, specifically trying to support people on low incomes. So, of course, we are working as hard as we can. We have been for 15 or more months to try to make this work. Let me pick up a couple of important points that have been raised by other colleagues. The member for Stirling kindly referred to the work that we've done in the government, and of course he acknowledged rightly that the devolved administrations and local authorities do have resources, in part, and very heavily resources provided by UK government. They also have the capacity in many cases to amplify and extend those own resources through local taxation of their own, and that flexibility is one that I think they may wish to use in support of local people, and I would support and welcome that as an exercise in devolved responsibility. And with that, let me sit down. Thank you, Mr. Mundell.
Thank you.